Well, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Fulani. It looks like our tertiary education system in the country is yet again going into a hiatus. It has been stated clearly. In fact, one paper's headline was that at last. So a strike has been declared, 4 weeks in the first instance, but it's been called a rolling strike. I don't know if that means that after 4 weeks, without any further ado, we shall just continue if the matters have not been met. Dr. Dele Ashiru, ASUU Chairman, UNILAG branch, is with us. Good morning, Dr. Ashiru.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
You're very welcome, sir. So yet again, and here we are. We've never really had joy when it comes to trying to resolve matters with our tertiary system. I mean, Nigerians are not a stranger to it. Unfortunately, the whole education system and students themselves are quite frankly going to suffer this. Why, since we haven't had joy before, is it sort of irregular for some people to think that shouldn't we be a bit patient? It doesn't look like a matter that is easily solvable. What is the situation, Dr. Ashiru? Why did we have to take this route? There must be a very, very good reason from ASUU's point of view.
Well, thank you. Let me start by saying that we go on strike action at very great pains.
Reluctantly.
We really don't enjoy going on strike. And that's why lecturers in Nigerian universities have been receiving the same salaries in the last 13 years. You know what $1 costs in 2009 and what it is today?
30 or 13?
13.
Okay, 13.
13. And the cost of living in 2009 and today. So, just as parents suffer, students suffer, lecturers also suffer. What we are seeing is the manifestation of a decadent leadership in a decadent state. Because between 2009 and today, ASUU had declared strike more than 10 times on the same issue. In 2020, year 2020, our union was on strike for 9 months. And during those periods, our salaries were withheld with great consequences for our members and their families and their dependents, and some of them who needs life-saving drugs. Mm-hmm. And at the time we were putting a closure to the strike action, there was a memorandum of action by government, between government and our union. We're going to do X by so number of time. We're going to do this between this time and this time. Between December 2020 and today, the primary reason why we continue to go on strike is still yet unresolved. In spite of the intervention from the highest level of government. The President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Rep, the Chief of Staff to the President, the Honorable Minister of Education, the intervention by the Nigerian Interreligious Council, led by the Sultan of Sokoto and the Khan President. Government is just unyielding. Government is just adamant.
I think government is saying that, among other things, that the system, the system that the ASUU, that educationists want to be on. Look, come on to a general system, but ASUU.
Which one is the general system?
This is you people have IPPIS or something like that, and
okay,
government has not been very happy with that.
Government is just being insincere. Okay. Let me tell you. Let me give information about that.
Okay.
Now, you you claim that there is corruption in the university system. ASUU says we are with you in fighting corruption in the university system, and we have been doing that. Now you railroaded forcefully our members onto a central platform called the Integrated Personnel and Payroll System. Now, after eroding us into that system, we argued that that system is inconsistent with what operates all over the world. And government insisted that IPPIS must be the payment platform for university teachers. After all the arguments, and in fact, by the latest report of the Accountant General of the Federation, IPPIS was described as a fraud. I have that report on my phone. If you want to see it, I will send it to you before leaving this arena. Now, our own argument is, look, if this is inconsistent with the university system, and we share the same aspiration of eradicating corruption in the system, we volunteer to produce another software, pro bono, that would achieve the same result and will be flexible enough to take care of the peculiarities of the Nigerian university system.
Okay.
Government then said, go ahead. Within 6 months, we produced a software that government and all its agencies have accepted as superior to IPPIS.
Okay.
And yet, up until as we speak, that software is yet to be deployed as a payment platform for Nigerian universities. Why? Because it will eliminate the fraud that they perpetuate in the IPPIS office, as contained in the report by the Auditor General of the Federal Republic. The Auditor General is not an ASUU member, and the report is in the public domain. So if a government agency says a system is corrupt, should that system still be foisted on Nigerians? And that is where the issue is. And our union is not going to accept it. As we speak, we spent our hard-earned money to produce UTAS. And government, during the negotiation, said, well, they have accepted UTAS in principle. Between December 2020 and today, government is still prevaricating on the deployment of UTAS. But
because government, if it could have its way, wants university employees and lecturers to be on a public sector, a public,
This one we have deployed to is a public sector, public transparency software. The objective is to show transparency in emolument payment in the university system.
Okay.
This will do it.
But not be on the same quote-unquote system as public servants. There's a need. There's a need for, there's a need as determined by, members of the university community that we need a separate and distinct system.
The university is autonomous.
Okay.
We fought for that a long time ago. A university, there's nowhere anywhere in the world where a university is a parastatal of government. There's nowhere in the world where a university is a department of government. A university traditionally is an autonomous institution saddled with the business of knowledge production. And ASUU is insisting that our universities be so treated. That's just the argument.
But as you said, and I said myself before, that we've been on this issue for a long time. Government has not, but in fact, it's part of the reason that ASUU is taking this action, because I was reading that government has gone back on the memorandum of action that was agreed. So why do you think it's going to be different this time? That didn't come out quite the way I wanted, but it's a problem. It seems intractable. Evidently, you don't believe it's intractable.
I
You
don't.
believe government is being recalcitrant,
Yes.
on the
Yes,
matter.
and deliberately so. Deliberately so.
Therefore, does government have it in for the university community, university lecturers?
You know that an enlightened populace is difficult to fool. And Nigerian government have taken the Nigerian people for a ride for a very long time. That's also on account of the fact that the government is deliberately de-educating Nigerians in order to disempower them. When education was a priority for government in Nigeria, Nigeria was better than we have it today. So they know what they are doing, and that's on the one hand. On the other hand, go and look at those who own private universities in Nigeria. All of them in government. So, and they are not getting patronage. The only way to get patronage is to totally destroy public universities in Nigeria, like they did to primary and secondary school. so that the private sector would thrive.
Dr. Ashiru, you're suggesting in there that there might actually be a conspiracy if you look at it closely enough.
Well, you can give it any nomenclature, but I am explaining to you the ideological underpinning of government's deliberately recalcitrant. How much is the amount of money to settle ASUU in terms of emolument? Look, when they were licensing private universities, we were told that they will be better than public universities. Today, lecturers are leaving private universities to come to the same public.
Okay, one moment, sir. Let me, good morning, Reverend Dominic. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, doctor in the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
So, this is one of the interesting topics we have had in this studio this year.
Thank you.
I can't hear you. Can I hear you?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay. Please, let's find a solution. And I'm talking about a stakeholder in this sense. My daughter went into university in 2014, Ogun State University precisely. By today, I'm still waiting for her to go to youth service. How many years, sir? Almost, 6, 7, 8 years. Now, strike is no more an option, honestly. What I will suggest is a suggestion, sir. You are in the system. Let's take Ghana way. Many years ago, Ghana closed their school for 1 year and sit down. They sat down and discussed, both from the side of government, both from the side of stakeholders, what are we going to do with our education? They came to an understanding how to run the education, how to fund the education. Ghana school is better off it today. For over 10 years now, been in this issue. And this agreement, if I remember, started from 2009 by Jonathan government. The Buhari government were still delayed. 1 year of strike will not solve it. Let us close, use stakeholders, close university for 1 year. Let's come together and come in agreement how to salvage education. Just like every department of Nigeria is under emergency. But education is one sensitive one. Education failure is what causes us insurgents. Education failure is what makes our children not to turn to Yahoo. Education failure has caused a lot of things. Can we close this school for 1 year and sit down for what they call education summit? Let's come in agreement, both the government and the people, how to run this system. Ghana CGT work for them. Can it work for us? Because strike cannot work any longer. Thank you, sir.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic, for calling in. A frustrated parent, he gave that he also has a kid, who's gone through the system, and it's just not any of the good old days anymore. Back when, you spent 3 years in the university back in the original days, and, it was smooth. So those days are probably what people are pining for. Now, there's been a lot of time to talk about this matter because we're saying that this is not a new conversation. No. It goes back through the presidents. I remember in the time of President Obasanjo, he actually said that, don't mind ASUU, give all the resources of government. If you funnel it into ASUU's demands, it still won't cover it. And how do we now distribute, allocate resources to, other competing needs as well? But is it a matter of needing the time without the distraction of being up and running, as Reverend Dominic seems to suggest? When you take all of that out, forget teaching, forget the university system, close down for a year, all of you people go to a retreat, seems to be the kind of thing, and then without any distraction, thrash this thing out. Are you optimistic about that working? I mean, it's a radical solution.
Well, it's an option. The Ghanaian example, as we speak.
But one moment before you go into it, let me bring in Mr. Momo, who has called in from Maryland. Good morning, Mr. Momo.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
When we come up with issues like this on the national TV, and we just talk and talk, we go back in, after talking too much grammar, we blow grammar a lot.
Oh dear.
Then everybody goes home and sleep again. Look, they've been on this issue, even, I cannot even remember the years back, more than, I think this issue of going on strike is over 20, 30 years now, if you really go back in details.
Well, actually, the doctor is correcting here that it's about 12. We've been in this.
No. Uncle Yori, look, I'm telling you now, go back in, this strike thing started in the 90s, early 90s or late 90s. True. So what are we saying here? Okay. So we go back at the end of the day, after this whole jamboree, they go back again. Once a peanut is being dropped in their purse, everybody goes back again. Uncle Yori, let me tell you the truth. Since this private university started, private secondary school, primary school started, the school system is totally gone in Nigeria. I don't know what we are talking here. Can they just even, in fact, revoke this issue of private schools out of the system? And let us go back. These same leaders we are talking today, 99% of them attended public schools. Not private school, public schools. Go back and check it. Uncle Yori, you sitting down there, if you can recall back, you even attended public school. The doctor who is sitting beside you attended public schools. How many of us attended private schools that we are talking today? So the system is so corrupt to a point that you see lecturers being right on a barefoot going to school. Sometimes you see their collar is torn, their shoe is torn. So what did they go there to teach? They only go back there and start selling handouts and what do you call it? Then at the end of the day, why do you think there will be corruption? We cannot. In fact, Uncle Yori, the system is smelling. It's smelling. For crying out loud. Please let them go on strike and remain on strike until these things have been settled. Then private schools should be totally closed. Let's go back to public schools. Thank you very much. God bless Nigeria.
Well, thank you very much. Amen to that, Mr. Momo. God bless Nigeria. Well, that's somebody who is not a member of ASUU, who is saying, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this dilly-dallying. We come, we think we're close to resolution, then ASUU will announce that bad faith. We approached, we came halfway. Government, has not, played its part. So all bets are off. Now, Reverend Dominic suggested close down, if you will, tertiary education system for a year, if need be. Mr. Momo is saying, don't even go back. Just shut down. Let it be known around the world that we don't have a university system in Nigeria. Let me see what Mr. George's take is. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to the professor.
Dr. Ashiru.
Good morning,
yes,
thank you.
Uncle Yori, I felt ashamed only last week or so when I saw this gentleman and his colleagues dancing and protesting in the campus, and students that are of their children's age were watching them. I saw the video, and I was just asking myself, where are we going? What kind of a country is this? That lecturers and the university system that is supposed to produce the best among us are in this state. If the government, Uncle Yori, if you recall, I've called several times when we discussed this topic, and I blame the ASUU for not being dynamic in their approach. Be that as it may, this latest one is the government has reached an agreement with them. If you know you cannot implement an agreement. Why did you go into it? The government should honor that agreement that it made with the lecturers. I have not seen the Minister of Labour now with his walking stick. He was in the agreement table. And you remember they were on strike for several months when that agreement was reached.
Yes.
And now, it has not been implemented. The lecturers have been talking. They now went on a strike. We have not seen the minister anywhere. What kind of democracy is this, Uncle Yori? Where government officials do not take responsibility? Well, I have a suggestion for the doctor there.
Thank you.
From all indications, you have been fighting a fight that is not likely to bring results in the way you are going about it. Because the people you are dealing with appear to have made up their mind. Why don't you use a different approach? Let me suggest this to you. Take your battle to the National Assembly principal officers and make your proposals become a law in Nigeria. So that if a government refuses to implement, you can sue them, you can put them on the line. Because as it is now, what you are saying depends on how disposed the government is to listen to you. There's no legal backing that can prompt them to do it, otherwise you will do what you need to do. But if you start from that area and say, okay, our education policy must now be like this, must now any government in power must do it this way, must do it this way, especially our tertiary institutions, you will have won the first round of the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever comes to power will have no choice but to conform. Otherwise, it will be in trouble. That government will be in trouble. I think that is the place to start from. When you are dealing with somebody, you look for a way to get what you want from him, because it is not everybody that one approach can work with. That's just a suggestion I'm making to the university lecturers this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. To give you enough time to respond to that, let me quickly go on a break now so that I won't have to interrupt you. Then when we come back, you'll look at it. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, and with Dr. Dele Ashiru, ASUU Chairman, UNILAG branch, in the studio. ASUU, has, commenced a 4-week strike. It's a rolling strike. I was going to ask him about the rolling aspect of it, but we'll come to that. Mr. George had, as other viewers, had put forward a kind of suggestion that, look, maybe you heard him, maybe you should approach the National Assembly. Maybe they can put, legal weight to this whole matter. But earlier you were saying that in spite of, intervention of people, including principal officers of the National Assembly. So what would you say to Mr. George's suggestion?
Well, we are open to suggestions from Nigerians. We thank them for, their kind words about our struggle. But talking about getting a legal backing for our agreement, that we often aspire to do. But as you are aware, it's these same people who are in government. I told you earlier that indeed the Speaker of the House of Representatives, if you remember, said he was not going to pass the education budget unless some of ASUU's demands in terms of money is put into that budget.
Okay.
So they are aware of what is going on. What is at stake is the unwillingness of the executive arm of government to develop human capital in Nigeria. And that in itself.
That is, and you're viewing that through the lens of interactions between you and the Honorable Minister of Education.
And his other counterparts, Minister of Finance, Minister of Labor, and all of those. Because even when Nariek met with the president last week, the matter was still thrown at the purview of the Minister of Education, Minister of Finance, and Minister of Labor. And even now, none of them is saying anything. So you can see that what is happening is symptomatic of a deeper malady.
And so you therefore feel that, look, this time, well, I hope this time you've got to stay with the strike. It's the only way to get results.
For the first time, this is a strike demanded by our members across Nigerian universities, because their emolument, the salaries they take now, cannot take them to the door, not to talk of the bus stop. And they are determined that unless a new salary structure is developed for university teachers in Nigeria, this strike cannot be called off. And that's why it's a rolling strike. There were media misrepresentation about it's being a warning strike.
Okay.
A warning strike means that after 4 weeks, whether government responds or not, you go back to work, and then this is not a warning strike. It's a rolling strike, which means that at the expiration of the first 4 weeks, if nothing is done, we roll over without any recourse to anybody.
Or recourse to anybody.
And if at the expiration of another 4 weeks, nothing is done, we roll over, and when we meet at the next National Executive Council meeting, we can then decide to shut down the entire system for as long as government is ready. The Ghanaian option worked for some time. As we speak, UTAG, that's the University Teachers of Ghana, they are also on strike. In the UK, university teachers are also on strike. What is at play is that there's a global onslaught on the production of knowledge, occasioned by the crisis of capitalism, which is also the driving force in the Nigerian education system. So what is happening here?
Dr. Ashiru, you've taken the whole thing into an ideological aspect.
Because unless you understand it from that perspective, you will just be treating the symptom. Ask the question, why is it that in Ghana, in Nigeria, and in UK, universities teachers are on strike?
Maybe for different, I can't.
It's all on pay.
I won't, okay. But
All
I was
on
going to
pay
say, I
packets.
won't know as well as you what the reason is for
Pay
the situation.
package. Pay package. Pay package. No respect for intellectualism.
No doubt.
No reward for brain work. No reward for creativity. Only entertainment. It's so saddening.
As Mr. George said when he called in, from his observation post, you seem to be dealing with a partner that is not going to budge from what we have known all this while. That was why he suggested perhaps look at it from an alternative point of view, and he suggested the law approach.
I think that...
I wanted to say that ASUU must be mindful of the collateral damage this will do to its own very constituency. Knowledge, this whole research, dispersal of knowledge and development through knowledge and all of that. ASUU must be aware of it. How did you balance it so that this one you've announced that it's a rolling strike, and you've explained to us when 4 weeks is up, we're not talking to anybody. We will just continue. The only way to turn it into a warning strike is on the part of government. Let government do what you are demanding, then the strike will cease. But if you go back to that question, how did you balance the damage that will occur to the system as you are fighting for what is on your agenda?
You see, this fight is to mitigate that damage. Not to fight is to grant the system.
Okay.
Until we started this struggle, there were no reagents in our laboratory. There were no books in the library. Students had no place to receive lecture. They had no
Are you talking about the University of Lagos or universities generally?
In fact, University of Lagos is even a model. So don't talk about talk about universities in other places. Where
more universities are being created
under this rotting condition.
In Lagos, we're going to have 2 more, for instance.
Under this condition that we are describing. So the other option is to cease the struggle, and 75% of those kids cannot come back to that university because their parents cannot pay. You are establishing universities where you are charging millions of naira in a country where the minimum wage is 30,000 naira. So what they are simply saying is close the door to sons and daughters of the poor so that they can have university education. Because of course, those that are creating trouble today are sons and daughters of poor people who manage to receive university education. And they don't want a repeat of it.
That's your conclusion.
That's my conclusion.
That's a conclusion that is what this problem is all about. You know, I think I read somewhere that some professional, some university teaching professional had said that in criticizing new universities coming up, that if you're going to set up a university, you must be ready to have what did he say, 30 billion. You must be ready to have the 30 billion to
fund it.
To fund it, so that it is more than a glorified secondary school. Do you think government is overreaching itself with these additional universities? Because take the case of in Lagos here, we talked about the higher education in Lagos, and the governor was saying on the occasion of getting 2 more universities that this is the demand by the public. This is society's demand that, look, there's a thirst for knowledge, and we can't, with our present infrastructure, satisfy it. So that's why we got licenses for 2 more.
What have they done to LASU in terms of carrying capacity and expansion in that university? You see, what is happening is people have turned the establishment of university to constituency project. You see, University of Navy, University of Army, University of Sweeping, University of Sleeping, University of Lying Down. Where on earth do you see people proliferating universities like University of Water Resources, University of Petroleum Resources, University of Running Resources? It's just looking for jobs for the boys. LASU is there. The capacity of that university, if expanded, could cater, for the access gap. And of course, there is a misconception about university education in Nigeria. In serious societies, not every child of school-going age must make it to the university. Here in Nigeria, they are even killing polytechnics, killing monotechnics, colleges of education, where, vocational education should be encouraged so that our education becomes functional. Now the emphasis is on certification. You just get a degree.
That's the society.
It doesn't matter what you do with
That's
it.
what the society demands.
That's what we have turned our society to.
Okay.
It wasn't like that in the past, Uncle Yori. I mean, when you were growing up, there were technical colleges around.
Of course.
There were vocational centers around. There were, monotechnics and polytechnics where you train artisans and all that. Today, if you need very good bricklayers or plumbers and all that, you have to go across the border to get one. Majority of our own boys are either too lazy or too unconcerned or busy riding Okada somewhere. And I mean, so there's a lot about reordering, our education system in such a way that it becomes beneficial to our society.
And somebody said, close down the whole system so that you eggheads can get together with government.
They won't listen. They won't listen.
And you're speaking from experience, because it's not today we started this conversation.
Not. They will not listen. The blueprint to develop Nigeria.
But you want them to listen. And that's why you've taken this action.
See, the only way to get them to listen is if all Nigerians, parents, teachers, students, market women, artisans, all stakeholders come together to force this government to do what is right.
Okay. Oh, I was, sorry, doctor. Okay, I was trying to see if we were trying to also fit in something slightly different, but of immediate concern, and that's the fuel situation. Our man Uche Okoro, TVC News correspondent in Port Harcourt, is actually at a petrol station, and we wanted to see what it's like over there. Here in Lagos, the way we're broadcasting from, you know what the situation is like. Those are, I believe, I'm not too sure, but that must be a Port Harcourt picture. In Lagos here, we were told that come the end of last week, the matter would have been resolved, and then around this time, it also would have been resolved in Abuja as well. But here we are. It has not been resolved in Lagos completely. It's not as if there's not been some supply, but we just wanted to find out. There's been some supply of fuel to the pumps, but then with those days that we thought were gone forever in Nigeria, those queues, those cans, they're back. They're back on the street, and quite frankly, it must be very embarrassing to this government. You might say the reason they're back is different from the reason that they used to be, but that's the way it is. So as soon as we can connect with Uche Okoro, we'll hear what he has to say. So here we are, Doctor. I just don't know, because this isn't encouraging at all to people who are of university age, that is kids who are just planning. You see, you can't plan education in this country. Reverend Dominic was speaking about his daughter. Other people speak about you think you're going to spend 4 years in a university. That's how you're planning it when you're in secondary school. And then we come. This one that you started, we don't know how long it's going to be. But it seems that you people are determined that, you know what, it's like the expression, otoge.
Certainly. If you've been receiving the same salary in the last 13 years, and you go to the same market, would you take government excuses to shop right?
So well, people, our viewers in the educational system, it will be interesting. People like Ada in Jos, people like Mazi Okorafor in Arochukwu, it will be interesting to see what they have to say about it. Mazi Okorafor, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Honestly speaking, it is very, very disheartening that everyday strike, you ask yourself, what is the dividends of democracy? One of the dividends of democracy is standard and qualitative education for everybody. It is very, very disheartening when Nigerian students leave this place and go to Europe, they will try to come and write another exam because they are not sure of the certificate because of this strike. Now, yesterday I saw this NANS student complaining about lecturers going on strike. Now I was asking my students this morning, where were the NANS for the past 6 months after I've been complaining about this strike? The NANS did not go to Federal Ministry of Education. They didn't go to National University Commission. They didn't go to National Assembly with placards to complain that the lecturers are not supposed to go on strike. Now they are going on strike. The NANS will open their mouth as if somebody has given money behind to come and start saying all this, what they were saying yesterday. So there is need for NANS to go back and say, I don't know whether the boys at the age school, whether they are just deployed political NANS students or what, I don't know. Because if we allow this strike to continue, somebody was rumoring that they will take the strike the next year, January. Now, Sayuri, ask yourself, if the students are to stay at home the next year, January, you have seen the level of this 419 is that Yahoo. Many of them will go and lay. After a while, I must suffer myself going to see that. They will go and lay. The number of Yahoo boys will increase and girls. We are talking about ritual killing. Many of them will Yahoo plus. It's not just killing and Yahoo. Yeah. Now, the federal government, they should sit down and discuss and find a right solution. Because if we allow this thing to be linked, some students have stayed in the school for 1 year. A course of 4 years, they have spent 7 years, 8 years. It is a threat to the parents. How much is the salary of a parent? Your child will see that every day you go and pay more money for hostel, you go and pay maybe 20 days off campus, you'll be feeling that instead of the child to graduate and come out with certificate and go and look for a job and be dependent. The government should look at, you see what is happening in Russia, Kuwait, and Kuwait. Everybody knows about it because Kuwait left and they are independent. Now, can't the federal government allow the Nigerian students to complete their career and get their qualification and be independent of themselves. And all these things will help us solve all these crises. Federal government, federal mission education, the vice chancellors we have today, many of them are 80% are political vice chancellors. That is why courses you see in Nigeria, that 80% or 70% are not accredited because of the political vice chancellors we have in Nigeria and the political lecturers we have as deans and faculty in the faculty.
All right then. Well, thank you very much, Mazi, for political vice chancellors, political lecturers. Maybe I can understand political vice chancellors, but political lecturers, I don't. But in the meantime, I understand I can now speak with our man, TVC News correspondent in Port Harcourt, Uche Okoro. Good morning, Uche. Okay, great. Good morning, Uche. I thought you would be at a petrol station.
There's one behind him.
But there's one behind you right there. So tell us, what's it like, if you can hear me, Uche?
Well, yeah, actually, I'm right in front of one here.
Yeah, we can see in the background there. So, what's it like there? I don't see any long queue as bad as I expected. Is it getting better in Port Harcourt?
Our residents of Port Harcourt, as at yesterday morning, woke up to very long queues in the city. I also made that observation on my way to, very early on my way to work yesterday morning. And then by early afternoon, it began to dawn on residents that, yeah, there appears to be a full-blown scarcity of petroleum products, particularly premium motor spirit fuel, in the city of Port Harcourt. So as at yesterday afternoon, we began to have a lot of queues, a very, very long queues in the very few petrol stations that were dispensing. Now, as at this morning, throughout yesterday, and as at this morning, right now I am along the Peter Odili Road here in the city. This petrol station you can see behind me, as at yesterday, even up until this morning, there were very long queues. The reason why you're not seeing those queues right now is because this particular station has exhausted its products. I can tell you that about just about 2 out of every 10 petrol stations in Port Harcourt are currently dispensing. So as at yesterday, there were queues everywhere. By evening, the queues began to dissipate because it was obvious that there was no need to even form those queues in the first place because the stations didn't have the products or were for reasons best known to them, we decided to halt the product. So, as of yesterday evening, the queues began to dissipate because the petrol stations are not dispensing. Along the stretch of this Peter Odili Road, from the beginning of this road to the, in front of me till the very end of this road in front of me and behind me, there are about 5 petrol stations. And right now, all 5 petrol stations are not dispensing fuel. So that's why many of these that's why you're not seeing the queues right now behind me in this particular petrol station. As at last night, this station behind me was the only station dispensing along the entire stretch of the Peter Odili Road here in the city of Port Harcourt. So yeah, I believe that when we move from this point to other points where we are lucky to find 1 or 2 petrol stations that are dispensing, certainly you would see a lot longer queues than what we're experiencing right now. But I can tell you for free that Port Harcourt currently has begun to experience its very fair share of scarcity of petroleum products starting yesterday.
You know, thank you very much, Uche. I'm going to have to leave it there, you know, and I'm sure TVC will stay on it, and you and other colleagues in other parts of the country will be letting us know what's going on. Those who are in the southwest, Lagos, where we're broadcasting from, they probably have an idea of what's going on. It's not easy at all. I don't know. Let the reporters who are out there on the field come in and tell us what they have seen. But you couldn't just drive in yesterday. I haven't tried today. You couldn't just drive into a petrol station. So that's that. We just sort of did that update. And back to Dr. Dele Ashiru, ASUU chairman, UNILAG branch. He's visited us upon the declaration of a nationwide strike by ASUU. And he said that if at the end of 4 weeks nothing satisfactory has been done, then the strike will just continue. Now, Doctor, as we go away now, the memorandum of action that you said government has reneged on, very, very briefly, what was the action for those who are not in the system, in the university system?
The 2009 agreement was to be renegotiated. That renegotiation had been concluded since May 2021. And the document has remained with government between that time and today, no action on it. The report, the white paper on the visitation panels that visited the universities, they are still in the coffers of government. They have not released it. Government said it has approved UTAS in principle. Between December last year, December 2020 and today, government is still prevaricating on the deployment of UTAS. IPPIS had amputated the salaries of our members such that our members can no longer bear it. So, this strike is premised on two principal demands. Sign the agreement that will usher in a new salary structure for university teachers and take us off IPPIS and deploy UTAS.
You know, thank you very much, Dr. Dele Ashiru, for at least giving us a glimpse into the mindset of ASUU as we go through these difficult times. There's a lot more, but then again, there's a lot more time on other programs to expatiate on this. Dr. Dele Ashiru, ASUU Chairman, UNILAG branch. Our thanks to you once more.
Thank you very much.
All right then. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.